a WhatsApp number as well that you can call 077 614 60614. So today the hot topic is actually a very good one, and I have a very good friend of mine who I've known for many years, 10 plus, I think, and he's a professor, Humayon Dar. So Professor Humayon Dar is Director General of the Cambridge Institute of Islamic Finance and is Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Cambridge EBIS Group of Companies. He's also considered, not only is he considered, I also feel as well, he's one of the most powerful opinion makers in the global Islamic financial services industry. Through Global Islamic Finance Awards and Global Good Governance Awards, he has influence and practices of Islamic finance and is an advocate for transparency, good governance, sustainability around the world, especially in the emerging market. Also, one of his most recent initiatives and projects is establishment of a $100 million women's fund, specifically aimed for the female and for female opportunities. Wow, that is fantastic. So this is a level of guest we have today, mashallah. So have I left anything out, Professor Dr. Humayon Dar?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much. You have been very generous in your introduction of mine.
Thank you.
Obviously, a lot of insignificant things can be included, but for the radio thing, this is absolutely fine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So we're talking about Islamic finance. Before we even go there, if you give a little bit of your Islamic finance background, I think that would be useful as well.
Right. My own personal background, just a few sentences, and I would like to give some background on the global Islamic financial services industry as well. Yes. I have been involved in the Islamic banking and finance industry for the last 25 plus years in different capacities, in academia, in investment banking, in Islamic financial advisory. And lately, my role has emerged as that of an Islamic finance advocate. In this advocacy role, I do a lot of things. We have been publishing a report, an annual report called Global Islamic Finance Report, which on an annual basis for the last 12 years have been covering what has been happening in the space of Islamic finance all over the world. And our next Global Islamic Finance Report is going to come out in September. And we are hoping that the President of Indonesia, His Excellency Joko Widodo, would be launching or inaugurating the report formally in Jakarta in an international conference. In addition to the publications, and we have quite a few, I have just mentioned one for the sake of time efficiency, we do a lot of awards programs as well. Our #1 award program, which is not only this is the #1 award program in the world in Islamic finance. It's called Global Islamic Finance Awards. And through this award program called GIFA, we try to influence the practices of Islamic banking and finance for them to become more socially responsible and more inclusive, not only in terms of income brackets, but in terms of gender equality as well. And this is one of the reasons that we have recently decided to launch $100 million fund specializing in what we would like to call as familial opportunities. So on the global Islamic finance scene, I must say that the growth in Islamic banking and finance has continued despite some shocks. The recent one is this pandemic. Even during this pandemic, Islamic banking and finance has been growing, not as much as in the previous years, but still the growth is very significant. At the end of 2020, we are working on the new estimate for the global size of Islamic finance, and this would be around 3 trillion US dollars, which is a very important, I should say, a milestone in the history of Islamic banking and finance. This is going to happen for the first time.
That's fantastic. And so let's get back to the topic. Thank you very much for that introduction of yourself and what you've been doing. And I know that is not even a quarter of 1% of what you do, because I've known you for a while and I have been to some of your events as well. And so, you know, you've underplayed it. But anyway, it's good. Right, so let's get to the topic, Islamic finance and trading. Obviously, the prohibition of interest and riba is to be avoided by Muslims. But many take it lightly by saying that it's not contemporary, in its contemporary forms, you know, interest may be prohibited, but may be allowed. So can you shed some light on the types of interest that are prescribed by Islam? Obviously, we shouldn't get involved in riba and interest, but, you know, we live in a modern age, and sometimes like mortgages or whatever, depending on where you live. So if you can shed some light on that, please.
All right. Thank you very much, Tamkin, for asking this fundamental question. I think for Muslims, it's absolutely important to understand the nature of the prohibition of riba. This is one of the prohibitions for which their Islamic stance is very, very strong. And it should be the case because interest rate mechanism is backbone of the modern capitalist economies and societies. In case of Islamic economic system, there is an absolute prohibition of interest in any forms. So, and I think this is important for all the Muslims to understand that there is no form of interest which is acceptable in Islam. So whether interest is very significant, i.e. it's large in volume, i.e. 30% plus, or it's very small, 1% or so, it is prohibited by Islamic injunctions. So this is an important thing which everyone should keep in their mind when they are thinking about interest. A lot of educated Muslims, or what they would like to call themselves as enlightened Muslims, they tend to believe, or they tend to argue, that the current banking practices involving interest, they are not prohibited in Islam. This is a wrong view on the prohibition of interest. As I said, interest in all its forms is prohibited. Now, what is interest? In its very simple definition, interest becomes visible or becomes involved in a transaction if two parties exchange anything in unequal quantities in such a way that one party emphasizes that I'm giving you this quantity of this thing, you have to give me another quantity of the same thing. And I'll give you an example. And the best example is money. Okay, if I give you 100 pounds and I insist that you give me 105 pounds in back, whether this is on spot or after some time, this transaction would involve interest or prohibited interest or riba. Okay. And this applies to commodities as well. If I give you 1 kilogram of sugar and insist on receiving 1.25 kilogram of sugar, this transaction would involve riba or the prohibited interest. Anything which is exchanged in unequal quantities, whether on spot or after some time, this would definitely involve riba or the prohibited interest. Now, sometimes we get confused. Some ulama, some fuqaha and scholars, they have come up with some kind of exemptions. For example, when there were no mortgages, Islamic mortgages available in the United Kingdom, some of the contemporary jurists would allow Muslims to buy their first home through conventional mortgage. Now, there is a difference between allowance and being halal. Mortgage, conventional mortgage doesn't become halal for British Muslims if there is no Islamic mortgage available. It's only that this is allowed by the jurists to buy their first home on the basis of an conventional mortgage. So this exemption doesn't become a rule. Rule is there that anything which involves interest, that would be prohibited.
Thank you very much. Also, I remember you once telling me that if you had dates of different qualities, you couldn't exchange them. You would have to sell the dates and then exchange. Can you just enlighten the viewers on that? That's a good one, I think, the dates one.
Yeah, I think dates, probably some people would say that this is, although in Ramadan, dates are very relevant. Okay. And Tamkin, okay, there are some websites which allow Islamic dates, Muslim dating. I'm not referring to that.
I'm talking about dates that you eat. This is a halal show.
Right. Okay. I think this is a very important point.
Yes, yes.
We must keep in mind that the prohibition of interest is about quantities. It's about amounts. So if Tamkin gives me 100 pounds, i.e., it's something I can count. And if he says, oh, you give me 105 pounds back, i.e., more pounds in number, then this would involve riba. Now, Tamkin may say that, oh, inflation rate in the United Kingdom is, say, 2%. And I'm giving you 100 pounds for 1 year. And after 1 year, the value of my 100 pounds would have gone down by 2%. Hence, you should give me 102 pounds back. This is not acceptable in Islam. Okay, why? Because of this incidents involving dates, Prophet ﷺ gave some dates to Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu. And after some time, Bilal radiallahu anhu came back with different quantity of dates. So he, for example, he gave 1 kilogram of Prophet ﷺ gave Hazrat Bilal 1 kilogram of dates. And Hazrat Bilal came back with 2 kilograms of another variety of dates. So Prophet ﷺ asked him, Bilal, how did you get these dates? He said, the dates you gave to me, they were of higher quality. They were from that so-and-so orchard, and I have exchanged that 1 kilo of dates with 2 kilos of lower quality dates. Prophet ﷺ said, this is actually riba, because you have exchanged the dates of 2 different qualities, 2 different varieties in different quantities. So any differential in quantity, whether this is of something of the same quality or different qualities, this would involve riba, right? So if I give example, if a woman says, I'm giving you 1 ounce of 18 karat gold, and you should be giving me 1.2 ounces of 15 or 14 karat gold in exchange, even then this would involve riba or the prohibited interest. So it's absolutely important for us to understand that riba is all about measurements. It's about weights, it's about the length, yards and meters, and it's about the quantities and amounts. If we understand this thing, then all the problems associated with understanding of interest would go away.
Very good. Yes, I think it's very clear now. So what is the state of Islamic banking and finance in the UK? And can the British Muslims benefit from such Islamic finance services? And is there true Islamic finance in the UK? I know back home they say there is but I find that back home is actually sometimes a bit worse than the UK.
Right. I think we, the British Muslims, are very lucky that we have a government which is very understanding of our needs of all kinds, our faith related needs. We are absolutely free to fast. We are absolutely free to pray. We are absolutely free, of course, within regulations, to build our mosques. Similarly, the British government takes into account the economic and financial needs of the Muslims. British government just a couple of months back actually issued a 500 million pound sukuk. Okay. And this is issued by the British government, not any other private institution. And this has been issued to allow more progress of Islamic banking and finance in the United Kingdom. So we are very lucky that we have some banks, one full-fledged Islamic bank operating in the United Kingdom, and we have 3 or 4 other banks which are offering investment banking and commercial banking products which are Sharia compliant. So slowly and steadily, Islamic banking and finance has grown in the United Kingdom, and a growing number of Muslims are benefiting from Islamic financial services being offered in this country by different institutions. So I think from that viewpoint, we must be very happy that we have a government which does take into account our economic and financial needs as a distinctly different faith-based group. The second part of your question, whether Islamic banking is truly Islamic or not, this is a question which I face all the time.
Yes.
And I tend to give different shades of answers. My lightest answer has always been Islamic banking and finance is as authentic as we are Muslims as individuals.
Okay.
Me, Humayon Dar, I should look at myself, and I know I can do my self-assessment, what kind of authentic Muslim I am. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think everyone would find that we are not perfect. Yeah. In Ramadan, we try to be better Muslims, but I know that after the end of Ramadan, on Eid day, many of us would not even go back to the mosques, right? But still we are Muslims. Alhamdulillah. Similarly, there is huge emphasis in Islamic banking and finance to make it as Sharia compliant as possible. However, there are certain limitations. In United Kingdom, for example, where the overall laws are not Islamic, sometimes it is difficult for Islamic banks to come up with products which are in true spirit of Islamic legal requirements. Okay. So given the limitations, the practice of Islamic banking and finance is very, very authentic. And I must say that in the context of Islamic banking and finance, the emphasis on keeping the things halal is as much, and I should say in some cases more, as we find in food. We eat halal zabiha meat, and when we go to halal butchers, the butcher just has to put this sticker, this is halal, and we say that, oh yes, this is halal food. Similarly, Islamic banks, they say that we are Islamic banks and we should trust them. If they have this Islamic thing on their doors, this means they are Islamic. They are not trying to dodge us. I tell you, there are a lot more opportunities for banks to earn money by being conventional banks. Why would they come to Islamic domain and dodge people to earn more money. Because the opportunities to earn money in Islamic banking and finance for the banks are rather limited. Okay. So I think it's important for us to be more trusting. If someone says that we are Islamic in our operations and in our approach, we should accept it. Tamkin, okay, when we met for the first time,
Yes.
you told me that your name is Tamkin Riaz.
Yes.
And that was enough for me to assume that Tamkin Riaz is Muslim.
Yes. MashaAllah.
Because your name suggests so.
So, have you changed your opinion?
No, Alhamdulillah, you are a lot better Muslim than my first, kind of impression. So
Thank
Alhamdulillah.
you.
So we are very happy. We have been friends for a very long time now.
Yes. MashaAllah. Actually, I was on WhatsApp and telling people that you're on, and there was a group on there, and they had a question, and the question comes from Sister Mamuna Tanveer from Karachi. And the question, yes, I do. So she's talking about Sharia, and she's dealing in stocks and trades and whatever, and she wants to know the compliance. Does compliance allow shares selling? Is it necessary to keep for 2 days till settlement, or overnight holding? Is that enough? For stocks and shares and holdings. She wants to be compliant if that's possible.
I praised you that you are a very good friend of mine, but in return, you have started asking me difficult questions.
I should have asked you before the program. Is this a good one?
Right. On a serious note, this is a very important question. Yeah. This is about trading in shares and listed securities.
Yes.
And I must tell our listeners that there are very well-defined rules which allow Muslims to trade in shares and other listed securities. So it is possible to buy and sell shares of companies. For example, I would not go into technical details. For example, Apple stock is Sharia compliant. Okay. So those of you who would like to buy Apple stock, I can tell you that it fulfills Sharia requirements. Now, there are some technicalities when it comes to trading in shares and stocks. Depending on the efficiency of an exchange system, it can take up to 3 days for a trade to get settled. So if I buy a stock from Tamkin today, for example, if I buy Sainsbury's stock from Tamkin, it may take up to 3 days for that stock to appear in my account. Right? So this means before 3 days, or in some cases 2 days, although I have bought that stock from Tamkin, it would not appear in my books. Okay. So some people, they say that before the transaction gets reflected in my books, I do not have possession of the stock. Okay. And because possession is a fundamental requirement for selling something.
Yes.
Right? So some scholars, they say that before possessing anything, you would not be able to sell that stock on to someone else. Okay. So this is the baseline kind of opinion. However, I would like to go beyond that one. When I buy a stock from Tamkin, I have agreed on the price, and the money has actually, I have instructed my bank, and the money has either left my account or it's going to leave the account. Okay. So once I have signed this sale and purchase agreement, the transaction is concluded, right? It may take 1 minute or 2 minutes, in some cases, half an hour for the money to leave my account and reach Tamkin's account. Okay. But the transaction, I have signed on the agreement, the transaction has been concluded. Similarly, the stock which is in his name with his brokers, this takes time. This may take 1 day, or this may take 2 days, or this may take 3 days before this is reflected in my books. However, during this period, neither of us unilaterally can change our mind.
Ah, yes.
Right? So you cannot, Tamkeen cannot say that, oh, I have changed my mind, I'm not going to sell it to you. No, there are very well defined rules of trading. Tamkeen, you would not be able to do that. This means effectively, although the stock is still in your books, but I own it, you cannot unilaterally change your mind.
Mm.
So some scholars, and their number is increasing, they say that this is acceptable for anyone who has actually bought a stock to sell it on to someone else, even before that stock is reflected in their books. Okay.
Right.
Now, the things are not that straightforward. What happens, because this question has come from Karachi, in
Yes.
a country like Pakistan,
Yes.
a lot of stock traders, they do certain things which may lead to some kind of dispute. Like day traders. Day traders, what they do, they would say, all right, this stock A, I would like to buy it. Okay, so they would buy it. They would ask their broker, can you find someone who's going to sell this stock? Okay. So for example, that person says, I'm going to buy this stock for one pound, or say 100 rupees. So 100 rupees, and he has bought the 1 million stocks of this. So it will be 1 million rupees worth of transaction. So after half an hour, the same guy, he approaches another person, or do you want to buy this stock? And the person says, yes, how much? And he says, I can sell it to you for 1.1. Okay. Now, this stock actually has not come into his books. This is actually in the books of the broker only. So no transaction has taken place. It was just a kind of, what they call in Pakistan, kachi raseed pe kaam ho gaya.
Kachi receipt, yes. I like it.
The account, this transaction is written in the books of the broker informally. Okay.
Penciled in, yeah.
Pencil, that's right. Okay, so they just pencil in these transactions and do all these tradings during the day, and only at the end of the day the broker would see how to settle the things. So and this is how the trading takes place. A lot of scholars, they say that this is nothing but undesired speculation. Your objective was not to buy and hold the stock, rather you were betting on the price movements only without having actually bought the stock. So this kind of practices are not acceptable, because they lead to unhealthy speculation in the market. So if someone has genuinely bought a stock, and this is going to appear after 2 days or 3 days in the person's account, and the person needs to sell this stock before that, even on the same day, this is acceptable. Okay. So this depends how you are doing the things. If you're a day trader, you are just a speculator. You are trying to benefit from the price movements only, without actually having legally binding positions on the stocks. This is not acceptable.
Right, very good. That, I think, cleared it up for me as well. Penciled in or not. Yes. So is it true to assume that Islamic banking is on the decline and losing its appeal, especially in the West, because there's less money to be made?
Yeah, I would say that Islamic banking and finance is not losing its appeal. It's not on decline. However, in the West, there is a definite reduction in people's general enthusiasm towards it. Right?
Mm.
About 10 years back, 15 years back, people would ask you a lot of questions. They would be curious about Islamic banking and finance, but that curiosity has gone down. It may be for a variety of reasons. It may be because of the widespread dissemination of information about Islamic finance.
Yeah.
A lot of people now they know what is happening in general terms in Islamic banking and finance. Hence, they might not seem that enthusiastic about the practice. However, I can tell you that youngsters, they are still very much into Sharia compliant practices. My son, who is going to be 20 soon, and he is an engineering undergraduate student, but he was telling me the other day that he has got a stock portfolio of his own.
Oh, mashallah, mashallah.
And and I asked him, so what kind of stocks you are investing in? And he would say, oh, I have an account with Wahed Invest. Or I'm not sure if I was going to, I was allowed to name any company, but there is one platform, Sharia compliant platform in the UK, and the youngsters they are very much into it. Similarly, there is another platform which allows Muslims to invest in property in such a way that there is this property platform, and anyone can invest £100 or £1,000 or £10,000 in a property portfolio. And I have come to know that a lot of youngsters, they are actually interested in this kind of Sharia compliant value propositions. The old school, I must say that it's difficult to convince them. The youngsters, they are looking for Sharia compliant opportunities. And this is one of the reasons that we find a lot of Islamic digital wallets. And on a daily basis, I see that there is growth in that kind of business.
That leads very nicely on to the next question. What are the areas of growth in Islamic banking and finance?
Actually, the areas of growth in Islamic banking and finance somehow rather trickily have moved into the domain of Islamic social finance. A lot of development in Islamic banking and finance has been in the corporate sector or in retail consumer finance. However, in a lot of Muslim countries, there is huge financial exclusion. By financial exclusion, I mean that out of 100, only about 20% or 25% people would have some kind of engagement with banks. Vast majority, 70%, 75%, they may not have anything to do with the banks. Okay. So given that a vast majority of the people in the Muslim countries, they are not involved with the banks, now there is an increased focus on bringing these people into the financial sector so that they could benefit from the financing opportunities offered by banks and other financial institutions. Islamic banking and finance finds itself in that area as well. So a lot of new initiatives are being set up to make sure that those people who do not have access to finance, they should get access to finance in a Sharia compliant way. So I believe, especially in the context of COVID-19, this is a growth area which is going to see a lot of development and growth in the next 5 years.
Like yourself, I'm also in education. So you're running seminars and training programs on Islamic finance. Can anyone benefit, or is it specifically for a certain level of people or group of people?
We have been, myself, we have this Cambridge Institute of Islamic Finance, which we have set up for promotion of Islamic financial literacy. But mostly its activities are for the professionals who are involved in Islamic banking and finance. However, Lately, we have been approached by one seminary, an Islamic madrasa. They would like to expose their students to Islamic economic and financial teachings. So we are looking into developing a curriculum for the madrasa students. So this is something we would be offering in future. May not be this year, but maybe early next year. In addition to that, we run a very interesting program. It's called Cambridge Islamic Banking Master, which is a quiz program designed around the idea of who wants to be a millionaire. Okay. This is something becoming very popular. Okay, and we have got support of quite a few banks. We do not offer $1 million or £1 million as of now. However, we offer some cash prizes to the winners as well. And because of this incentive, a growing number of people from around the world, they are contesting in the Cambridge Islamic Banking Master. And through this program, I would like to encourage our listeners that they should be looking into the possibility of becoming one of the contestants for this Cambridge Islamic Banking Master. This is what we call edutainment in Islamic finance.
Edutainment. I like that.
That's right. Or it's a fun way of learning Islamic finance. So you learn about Islamic finance. If you win, we give you some money as well, and you get a beautiful certificate called Cambridge Islamic Banking Master Certificate. And you actually can write on your business card, for example, Tamkin Riaz, Cambridge IBM.
I think I got a couple of certificates, but I don't know what it says on them from you many years ago when I attended a couple of your courses, mashallah. Talking about courses, you haven't told our viewers and listeners about your MSc. You were the first person, I think, to do an MSc at Loughborough University, a course at Loughborough University. Am I getting it wrong?
That's right. Yes. Yes. But that was a long time ago, Tamkin. Now you.
You've moved on to Cambridge now. I know, but this is the MSc.
You are disclosing my age to the listeners.
Allah.
I was lucky as to work with my mentor, Professor John Presley at Loughborough University. We worked on setting up the first ever master's program in Islamic economics, banking, and finance offered by any university in the Western Hemisphere. And that was Loughborough University. And that was before the year 2000, I think 1998, 1999. And since then, I have been involved in quite a number of other initiatives as well. So I helped Cass Business School to set up their first ever executive MBA in Islamic finance. So that was the first ever executive MBA in Islamic finance when it was launched in 2006, 2007. And lately, we have started a leadership program. It's called Cambridge Islamic Finance Leadership Program, which we have been holding at Clare College, University of Cambridge, on an annual basis. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we could not hold it last year. And this year it was scheduled to be held in August. But given the situation, we would have to postpone it to the next year. So this is something on the education side we have been doing. And I must say that there are a number of universities and institutions in United Kingdom which are offering very high quality instructions in Islamic banking and finance. I'm happy that new universities, they are coming into the field as well. This Birmingham City University, it's one of the newest universities which has started offering an undergraduate program in Islamic banking and finance and accounting. And those who live in or around Birmingham, now they have a local university offering a bachelor's program in Islamic banking and finance. And of course, in London, we have a number of universities and colleges which have been offering degree programs and non-degree qualification programs as well. The best one, in my view, is Islamic finance qualification offered by Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment in London.
Ah, that's very good. Excellent. So you touched upon digital wallets. Now, of course, there are digital wallets that people use for crypto and Ethereum and Ripple and whatever. But what's this Islamic digital wallets? How are they being pitched and used to be Sharia compliant? You know, how can we use them properly, you know, and develop these?
The two different Islamic digital wallets, cryptocurrencies, they are two different things.
Two different, yes.
Digital wallets are basically very simple kind of product. It is banking services offered through my mobile phone. That's it, right? And this is something the high street banks have started doing as well. But there are some specialized companies which would be focusing on their targeted sub-populations. In the United Kingdom, now we have about 4 or 5 companies which are offering what could be called Islamic fintech services. I don't know whether I can name them, but you know, I personally, I have an account with an Islamic digital wallet. It's I'm experimenting with this one. So far, I'm happy. They actually sent me this card as well. Now, this is.
I've applied for that. You have to apply for it. Yes, I think 6 months ago I applied.
Yeah.
I'm on the waiting list.
Right.
So you have to use your influence. You have to use your influence.
No, it's actually very good. Look, okay, this is for contactless transactions as well. Yeah. And I have got this in my Apple Pay. It's really good. It's a fun way of making transactions. And I'm happy that Islamic finance is using the technology. And Tamkin, you would be happy to know that, you know, we are now, myself, okay, you know, we are involved in coming up with a global digital institution, which would be offering Islamic digital services to the people in United Kingdom as well as in Pakistan. Okay. In Pakistan, the government is pushing this Roshan digital account. And Islamic banks, they are very active in these Roshan digital accounts, which are for overseas Pakistanis. So wherever Pakistanis are, they can open their accounts digitally. So I opened my Roshan Pakistan digital account with an Islamic bank. Okay. So while sitting here, I can deposit money in that account, and I can use that money in United Kingdom as well because my account is in pounds. Okay. So a lot of technological developments are taking place overall in financial services, and Islamic banks and financial institutions, they are benefiting from these developments as well. Yes. Now, the second part, cryptocurrencies.
Yes, that's a bit, yeah, that's a bit risky as far as I know.
Yeah. I take a very conservative view when it comes to the cryptocurrencies. Yeah. Okay. Because cryptocurrencies, you know, cryptocurrencies are called currencies, but they are not currencies even, right? For me, if something claims to be something and it's not that something, then there is something wrong with that. Okay. Similarly, even, you know, calling Bitcoin a coin, and actually there is no coin, right? So for a person like me, okay, you know, there is what we call in fiqh, in Islamic fiqh, the concept of taghreer, deception by name. They may not be deceiving people, but you have named something. You know, if there is a duck and you call that duck chicken, you say, oh, well, no, it's only a name. It's otherwise, it's not duck. It's actually, the name is chicken, but otherwise it's duck. But we are naming it chicken. Right? So you are confusing people.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So cryptocurrencies have confused people a lot. Number one, they are not currencies. They are not legal tenders. in most cases, they are not even media of exchange. In most cases, in some cases they are. Okay. Hence, I would say that, those cryptocurrencies which fulfill Sharia requirements, they are okay as an investment product, but not as money. They are not money. Money should be backed by an authority, by a government. Okay. This is my conservative view. And because in most cases, these market-based cryptocurrencies, they are not supported, they are not even understood by authorities. How can I trust these products? So this is my personal conservative view. And I would like to advise everyone who is looking into buying these Bitcoins and other types of cryptocurrencies, they should be very, very careful when dealing with this kind of products which are not fully understood by them.
Excellent. Because, I know people who have brought cryptocurrency in the past at 16, 18,000 pounds, and then it dropped down to 3,000. Then slowly it's been coming up to 16, 18, 20, 30, 40, even up to 60,000 now. And Tesla also brought 1.5 billion. But, I think they're very risky, and, only afford to risk if you have to, what you can afford to lose. But as you say, unless they're Sharia compliant, then we should stay away from them. I think it's a type of gamble and a lottery or gambling as well, in one sense. But, they're all different. They're all different. They claim to be different.
That's right. Look, I'm not against them. There was this one currency, I won't name it. This lady, she came to United Kingdom.
We all know the name of that currency and what she did. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. So I'm saying that we have to be careful. We should save. We should try to protect our money, our wealth. People, they come to us with all kind of claims, and it's always a good idea to do proper due diligence before making any financial decision.
Yes. We've only got a few minutes left now, but I've got so many questions for you, but we may have to do a part 2, inshallah. But let's see. Right. Over the last 15, 20 years, what's happening with respect to Islamic banking and finance in London? Remember the London Stock Exchange and Islamic Stock Exchange? Apparently, London has gone quiet on that front. Obviously,
Actually,
COVID is going to do everything. But this was about 5, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think London has gone quiet for last one and a quarter years, primarily because of COVID. Okay, COVID has changed our lives significantly. Yeah. Otherwise, I must say that with respect to Islamic banking and finance, London has become a very mature financial center. So we have the likes of Gatehouse Bank, we have Bank of London and the Middle East, and we have QIB UK, and etc. So these banks, they are the fact that they have survived. Most of these banks are now 10 years plus in the age, and they are doing well, and they are coming up with more and more and better products. This means there is demand for their services. I am in particular impressed by Gatehouse Bank, by the way. They are very innovative. They have come up with a lot of green products. And I was going through their website, and I wanted this to share with our listeners. If they have this one account, if you put, say, £100 in that account, they would plant certain number of plants in an area which comes under preservation area in England and Wales. So it's a very environment friendly. So when I put £100 with Gatehouse Bank, they would make sure that there is one new tree is planted, not in my name, but because of my deposit with them.
That's very good. MashaAllah.
So I think it's very, and I'm happy that Islamic banks are doing this kind of mainstream things. Right. So,
Professor Dr. Humayon Dar, it's been a pleasure as usual to talk to you, and I learned so much. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. As I say, I may have to, request our Ramadan radio to maybe do part 2, but let's see, inshallah. So I'd like to thank you again from everyone here at Ramadan Radio, and thank you again, everyone. Jazakallah khair for helping us with the hot topics.
thank you for the invitation.
Wa
Assalamu alaikum.
alaikum assalam.